I tried everything to break my addiction until I learned how Mount Sinai rewires your brain. What if I told you that the biblical wilderness journey isn't just ancient history, but actually a roadmap for neural transformation? Each station the Israelites camped at represents a stage of healing your brain goes through when breaking free from destructive patterns. And Mount Sinai, that's where everything changes. Let me walk you through this journey that changed my life. The journey begins at Ramesses, the awakening of consciousness. Ramesses was the launch point, the place of departure from bondage. Spiritually, it represents the first flicker of awareness that something must change. Neurologically, it's the moment the brain begins to question its programming. Sinai is still far off, but the journey begins with awakening. Exodus 12:37 says, "The Israelites journeyed from Ramesses to Succoth." This is where you reflect on one belief or habit that no longer serves your freedom and write it down. Your affirmation becomes, "I awaken to transformation." Next comes Succoth, the shelter of transition. Succoth means booths or temporary shelters. It's the liminal space between bondage and becoming. Emotionally, it's the fragile stage of healing where safety is needed but permanence is not yet possible. Sinai is still ahead, but Succoth reminds us that transition is sacred. Leviticus 23:42 tells us to live in temporary shelters for 7 days. Here you create a quiet space, a physical or emotional booth, and dwell there briefly. I honor the sacredness of transition. Then Etham, the edge of the known. Etham was at the edge of the wilderness, the boundary between what's familiar and what's forming. Psychologically, it's the moment the mind resists change. Sinai beckons, but Etham tests our willingness to leave the known for the divine unknown. Exodus 13:20 says, "They camped at Etham on the edge of the desert." You name one fear that keeps you tethered to the familiar and speak release over it. I step beyond the edge with courage. Pi Hahiroth brings the confrontation of panic. Pi Hahiroth was where Israel faced the sea and Pharaoh's army. It's the limbic system in full alarm, fight, flight, or freeze. Sinai is impossible without this confrontation. Transformation begins when panic meets divine intervention. Exodus 14:2 instructs to camp near Pi Hahiroth between Migdol and the sea. Practice breath prayer. Inhale, peace, exhale, I am held. My panic is not my prison. At Mara, bitterness meets reframing. Mara means bitter. It's the trauma residue surfacing. Sinai cannot be received with bitterness unhealed. Emotionally, Mara is the place where reframing begins, where pain is named and then transformed. Exodus 15:23 tells us they could not drink its water because it was bitter. Write a letter to your past self, offering compassion, not correction. I transform bitterness into wisdom. Elim becomes the nervous system's Sabbath. Elim, with its 12 springs and 70 palm trees, is the body's return to regulation. After Mara's bitterness, Elim offers hydration, shade, and rhythm. Neurologically, it's the parasympathetic system reactivating, rest, digest, and integrate. Sinai cannot be received in survival mode. Exodus 15:27 describes they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs and 70 palm trees. Take a slow walk or stretch. Let your body feel safe. I rest to receive. The sin desert brings the reemergence of need. In the wilderness of sin, hunger reemerges. This is scarcity wiring. When the limbic system panics in lack, God responds not with abundance, but rhythm, manna, daily. Sinai teaches us that a covenant is built on trust, not hoarding. Exodus 16:4 promises, I will rain down bread from heaven. Each day the people are to gather enough for that day. Practice just enough today. Eat, spend, or speak only what's needed. God's rhythm is enough for me. Dafka represents the station of delay. Dafka is obscure in detail but rich in metaphor. It represents delay, where movement slows and clarity stalls. Emotionally, it's the pause before breakthrough. Sinai is near, but Dafka teaches patience in the fog. Numbers 33:12 simply states, They left the desert of sin and camped at Dofka. Sit in silence for 5 minutes. Let stillness be your teacher. Delay is not denial, it's deepening. Alush becomes the station of strength. Alush means to need or to press. It's the place of internal pressure that produces strength. Sinai requires a soul that's been shaped. Neurologically, it's the tension that rewires resilience. Numbers 33-13 records, they left Dofka and camped at Alush. Reflect on one pressure you've endured and what strength it produced. Pressure is shaping me for purpose. Rephidim teaches the posture of clarity. At Rephidim, there was no water, and then came war. Stress stacked. This video is the intellectual property of Jacqueline Enterprise Incorporated. For more details to help you process through the unfamiliar, go to Amazon.com today and order several copies of Your Wilderness is a Mirror 24-month devotional of how to overcome addiction or enslaved behavior, a soul journey from bondage to freedom, processing through the unfamiliar.